Welcome to the Dark Ozarks. We are discussing vampires and the undead. Isn't this a European issue?
We tend to think so, but the undead have made their way to North America and apparently settled down quite happily in the Ozarks.
We will get back to vampires, but first we want to invite you to like, follow, and subscribe to the Dark Ozarks on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as your favorite podcast platform. We also invite you to become a Dark Ozarks subscriber on Facebook. On the Dark Ozarks Facebook page, click subscribe, have your login information ready, and join Dark Ozarks behind the scenes for only $4.99 per month.
Your $4.99 per month subscription allows you to come with us on paranormal investigations, deep dive research, and topics too controversial for public view. The next 100 subscribers will be entered in a drawing for a free Dark Ozarks t-shirt and an exclusive signed first-round copy of the book, Dark Ozarks, The Spook Light. Subscribe today to be entered in the drawing.
And now you can get Dark Ozarks t-shirts for sale at darkozarks.com and paranormalsciencelab.com.
We encourage you to check out Always Buying Books in Joplin, Missouri, in person and online on Facebook and at the website alwaysbuyingbooks.com for all your reading needs, including a large section of paranormal, history, and more. Not to mention, the building is haunted. Tell Bob and Elise we sent you.
We also want to thank Beard Engine Brewing Company in Alba, Missouri. Beard Engine Brewing is the only English-style brewery in Missouri and has been twice named Missouri's best brewery by the Missouri Brewers Association. Great beer and great food in a historical building with a noir past. And yes, their building is also haunted. Tell Nate and Tiff that we sent you.
So, vampires in the Ozarks.
Yes, something that most people might look askance at and say, what? We aren't in Transylvania.
We are not. There is a surprising amount of lore that certainly is part of the New World, and an interesting amount of lore that layers within the Ozarks, in some cases as close as Springfield, Missouri.
Very true. I think a lot of people kind of look at the subject as vampires through the lens of fiction, novels and movies and so forth. But there's a long tradition of vampiric lore, whatever you name it, that goes back to ancient times around the world.
It does. And in cultures that are so far separated from one another that you cannot dismiss it just by saying there was cross-cultural contamination.
No, over thousands of years, really all parts of the globe. But there seems to be a common thread of the undead as posing a threat of some sort to the living.
It is, and it is, I think the first thing to really take into consideration is that there are points in times, even within comparatively modern history, that there were groups of people who were afraid of some sort of vampiric threat.
And take drastic measures to counteract it.
They did. And it is telling that we are really not that far removed from the potential of taking those kind of responses. We have some very basic human dynamics at play. The biggest one being group or community anxiety.
Yes, and feeling threats to the community.
And that is surprisingly not that difficult to create. You also have the potential of cult activity. You have the potential of the rumor of cult activity. And either or both of those working separately or somehow in conjunction, I won't say in tandem, but somehow in conjunction or proximity with one another can initiate the same thing. And at the same time, you have vampiric-like creatures or beings that show up in legitimate lore, not only, of course, in Europe, and you could argue that various aspects of the vampire lore in New England or coming across with the settlers could have been inherited by European transmigration. However, when you're looking at vampiric-like creatures or beings within Cherokee, Seminole, or Caribbean culture, or even diving into some of the darker aspects of Mayan mythology and lore, it really becomes clear that this is not just a Romanian issue.
No, not at all. And in fact, that it has affected large swaths of the population to some degree within living memory in the 70s and 80s, and have affected real life true crime situations, that it's easy to step back and say, oh, we're only talking about movies or books, but it goes well beyond that. And we're going to go into a lot more depth on these issues and examples in the Ozarks in the long format video, which will be up later this week. And in between, we want to remind you not to forget to check out upcoming events and merchandise at darkozarks.com and paranormalsciencelab.com. And thank you again to Always Buying Books and Beardage and Brewing Company for helping to bring the Dark Ozarks to everyone.
On the next episode, we're going to be discussing how German folklore lives on in the Ozarks. Catch the Dark Ozarks podcast on Branson Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or about any other podcast platform.